The Late Show studio glowed under bright lights, its energy crackling with anticipation. The crowd's cheers bounced off the walls, a wave of sound promising a night of wit and fire. A stage set for a clash no one could predict. Stephen Colbert strode to his desk, his grin sly and warm, his presence a spark that lit the room, a host ready to cut through fluff with a razor's edge, his eyes glinting, a champion of the everyman facing a test. Across from him sat J.D. Vance, the Ohio senator with a slick beard and sharper suit, his posture stiff, his gaze guarded. A glint of defiance flickered. A guest tied to Trump's orbit, his hands clasped tight, a man braced for battle. The audience, a mix of Colbert's loyal fans and Vance's curious supporters, clapped loud, their buzz a thick pulse. Their voices rose, eager for Colbert's jabs to meet Vance's grit. A showdown brewing fast, a spark ready to blaze. Colbert kicked off with his usual charm, his voice smooth. "Folks, tonight we've got J.D. Vance, the senator who went from hillbilly roots to Trump's right hand, here to tell us what's what." His words were laced with a smirk, a nod to the crowd that drew laughs. The room hummed with excitement, a nod to Vance's journey from memoir fame to MAGA fame. Vance nodded, his smile tight. "Good to be here, Stephen. Just trying to keep Ohio strong." His tone was clipped, a jab at simplicity. The audience chuckled, some clapping their respect for his rise, a thin thread of shared curiosity for a man who'd flipped his tune. Colbert leaned in. "Ohio strong, huh? Still rocking that Trump vibe like it's 2016, J.D.?" His quip was light but pointed, a poke at loyalty. The crowd giggled, the mood loose, a sparring match starting slow. A fuse lit with care, begging the question, how long could this stay civil? The chat rolled on, Colbert steering toward Vance's Senate run. "So, J.D., you're out there stumping, still defending Trump's wild ride. How's that working for you?" His question was edged with a grin, a wink to the camera. The audience laughed, their applause a steady hum. A warm nod to Colbert's knack for truth. Vance shrugged. "Trump's a fighter, Stephen. I back winners, that's all." His reply was cool, a hint of steel breaking through. The crowd murmured, some clapping, others shifting with unease at his tie to Trump growing. A sign of a rift to come. Colbert's eyes sharpened. "A fighter, sure. But what about January 6th? You still riding that wave or dodging it?" His tone was playful but piercing. A spark in his stare, a challenge dangling loud. A thought rose fast. Would Vance duck or dive into a fight he couldn't win? The air tightened. Vance's fingers tapped, his smile fading. "January 6th, huh? You're digging deep, Stephen." His voice was low, edged, a hint of heat slipping out. The audience buzzed, some laughing, others leaning in, their tension coiling quick. A spring wound tight, a fuse burning short. Colbert grinned wider. "Deep, J.D. It's my job. You signed up for this, right? Or did Trump not warn you?" His words were swift, a jab that landed sharp. The crowd roared, some clapping hard, their faith in him surging. The room tilted toward something raw, something real. Could Vance hold his ground, or had he just stepped into a trap he couldn't escape? The crowd's roar surged through the studio, their cheers and murmurs blending into a sharp, electric hum. Their eyes darted between Colbert and Vance, the air thick with tension that crackled loud. A fuse burning shorter with every word, a clash poised to erupt. Colbert sat steady, his grin tight, his voice slicing clean. "Trump not warn you, huh?" His jab still rang, his gaze locked on Vance, his breath calm. A host pressing a nerve he knew would sting. A champion pushing truth over spin. A spark flared bright. Vance leaned forward, his fingers clenching, his cool fraying fast. "Oh, Stephen, you love that gotcha game, don't you? Digging up January 6th like it's my diary." His tone was sharp, a bite breaking through. The audience gasped, some chuckling, others shifting, their buzz a live wire. A senator striking back, a fight turning raw, a moment teetering on a razor's edge. Colbert's eyes glinted, his voice steady. "Got a game, J.D.? "No, just asking what you stand for. You're the one who cozied up to Trump. Own it." His words were crisp, a shove that landed hard. The crowd erupted, some clapping, others whooping their support. A wall of a host calling out dodge with no mercy. A truth cutting deep, a blaze catching fast. Vance's jaw tightened. "I stand for Ohio, Stephen, not your liberal script. You twist it. I'm not here for that." His retort was hot, a jab at bias. The audience booed softly, some nodding, split a jagged pulse. A senator pushing back, a billionaire's ally facing fire, a dollar's worth of loyalty stretched thin, a tension spiking high, a heartbeat pounding loud. The fight flared hotter. Colbert leaned in. "Ohio, sure? But you stood with Trump when he trashed democracy." "That's not twisting, that's fact." His voice rose, a blade of reason, a stand for the room. The crowd roared, some standing, their cheers a storm. A host wielding truth like a shield, a senator's dodge crumbling fast. A moment spiraling wild, a spark bursting flame. Vance shot up, his chair scraping. "You're a clown, Stephen. I'm not your punching bag. I'm done with this." His voice boomed, a snarl of fury. His hands ripped off the mic, the cords swinging free. The audience gasped, some booing loud, others cheering. Their noise was a thunderous swell, a senator storming, a host unshaken, a clash exploding raw, a breaking point hit hard, a shock rippling through. Vance stomped off, his footsteps pounding. "Enjoy your circus," his parting growl lost in the din. The crowd's swell shattered into chaos. Some clapping for Colbert, others stunned. A wave crashing hard, a senator kicked off by his own fire, a host left standing. Colbert's hands raised. "JD, take care." His voice was cool, a quip that landed soft, a jab that sealed it. The audience erupted, their cheers a thunderous tide, a triumph blooming fast. A night flipped upside down. Security hovered, their whispers sharp. "He's gone!" Their relief ignored. Colbert's grin returned, his gaze sweeping the room. The crowd's buzz was a living thing, their faith in him a rock. A story spinning beyond the set, a simple chat turned into a saga. The Late Show studio pulsed with a wild, jagged roar. The crowd's cheers and boos crashed into a thunderous swell, their eyes wide, their phones buzzing. A chaos still rippling from Vance's stomping exit, his mic dangling limp. A shocking clash with Colbert burning bright, a moment etched raw and real. Colbert sat steady, his grin sharp, his hands resting calm. "JD, take care." His cool quip still echoed, his breath even. A host unshaken by a senator's storm, a champion holding the room. The audience surged, their applause a living tide. Some stood shouting, "You got him!" Others murmured, "Too far," split a live pulse. A night flipped hard, a clash sealed shut, a story spinning wild. A victory poised to rise, a shock sinking deep, a scene no one could unsee. Backstage the frenzy erupted. Crew darted through shadows, their headsets crackling. "He's out the door." Their voices sharp. A rush as Vance blew past, his coat flapping, his growl fading. "Screw this!" His exit a blaze of fury, a man torched by his own heat. Word raced fast. Staff whispered. Vance had bristled from the start, his nerves raw, his prep shaky. A clash sparked by Colbert's edge, a clip already viral. Vance storms off, the tide swelled, some bashing his flare, others hailing Colbert's steel. A digital storm brewing, but the spotlight held on Colbert. His desk a stronghold, his crowd a shield. A moment to claim, a test he'd won with wit. A night turned raw, a win carved clean. Colbert leaned in, his voice cutting clear. "Well, folks, looks like JD prefers the exit to the hot seat. Guess Trump didn't prep him for this." His tone was light, a blade of wit, a quip that drew laughs loud and warm. The audience exhaled, some clapping, "Nailed it!" Others whooped, a lifeline he tossed. A host turning fire into fuel, his grin steady. Attention melted fast, a spark of joy flickering bright. He sidestepped the clash, no lingering jab. "Anyway, we've got a show, right?" His riff was smooth, a pivot that landed soft. The crowd's laughter swelled, their cheers surging. A wave he rode easy, a senator's meltdown fading dim, a recovery woven tight. A stand that felt real, a night reclaimed swift, a triumph no one could shake. A story they owned with every laugh. The vibe lifted. Colbert's voice rose. "Let's roll, you with me?" His question was a bridge, his smile warm. The audience roared back, their applause a storm. Some stood shouting, "Always!" a unity binding them. A host forging gold from chaos, a clash turned lesson. A win needing no grudge, just heart and hustle. A moment tying tight, a senator's shadow gone, a night standing tall. The segment flowed on. The crowd's buzz was a steady beat, their trust in him a rock. Some swayed, others beamed. A story spinning beyond the set, a simple chat turned into a saga, a shock unfolding full and deep, a tale poised to close. A question pulsing soft, would Vance's exit echo a fleeting blip or lift? Colbert's shine to burn alone? The Late Show studio thrummed with a vibrant fading roar. The crowd's applause swelled into a warm pulsing tide. Their cheers softened, their phones still buzzing. A wild clash with Vance cooling into memory, his exit a shadow. A shocking night sealed by Colbert's steady hand. A moment glowing with heart and grit. A spark dimming slow. Colbert leaned back, his grin wide, his hands loose. "Let's roll, you with me?" His bridge still rang, his breath calm. A host who'd turned a senator's storm into gold. A champion closing strong. A triumph burning bright. The audience clapped, their swell a living wave. Some shouted, "Right here!" Others beamed, "Always." Their unity a steady pulse. A night reclaimed clean. The air eased. Colbert's voice lifted. "Well, folks, we've had a ride. JD brought the heat, but we kept the light, right?" His tone was smooth, a quip that landed soft. The crowd laughed, some whooping, a release tying them close. A host weaving chaos into calm, his hands gesturing free. Attention gone, a spark of joy glowing wide. He didn't dwell on Vance, no final jab. "Let's bring out some music, wash that down." His pivot was crisp, a nod that drew cheers. The crowd's swell surged, their applause a thunderous beat. A senator's flare dimming faint, a recovery sealed tight. A stand that felt earned, a night turned crisp. A triumph they shared, a story spinning beyond the set. The online storm raged on. Clips of Vance storms off and Colbert's hot seat line flooded screens. A viral blaze splitting chatter. Some slamming Vance's rage, others praising Colbert's edge. A tail stretching wide, a win echoing loud. A senator's team mute, a host's crew grinning, their views climbing. A moment locked in time, a clash a footnote to Colbert's shine. The band kicked in, their notes a bright wave lifting the room. The crowd swayed, their cheers a steady hum. A night's edge melting soft, a close wrapping true. A victory born from wit, not spite. A tale tied with grace. Colbert stood his presence firm. "You're the best. Thanks for this." His voice was warm, a thanks that stuck. The crowd's roar was a final swell, a night standing tall. A senator's ghost gone, a host's light burning clear. The clock ticked out. Colbert's final wave cut through. His grin steady, his stand alone under lights, a beacon holding firm. Hit that like button if you loved it. Subscribe for more. His call was natural, the room erupting. Their cheers shook the walls, a tribute to a host who'd flipped a meltdown into magic. Step by deft step, the camera swept wide. Faces lit with joy, some buzzing, others clapping. A night ending bold, a clash, a memory, a triumph blazing bright. The screen faded black, a cap to a saga that soared. A nudge to join the ride. A legacy of truth over bluster, sealed in their roar. Vance's exit faded, a blip lost. Colbert's win, a fire that held. A story closed crisp, a night owned full. The crowd's energy lingered, their applause a final echo. A night no one would forget. A clash that defined the evening. Colbert's grin never wavered, his confidence unshaken. The audience adored him, their loyalty unbroken. Vance's departure was a footnote, a moment of heat that cooled fast. The show rolled on, the band playing, the crowd cheering. A night of television at its best, raw and real. The studio lights dimmed, the set emptying. Crew members smiled, knowing they'd witnessed something special. Colbert waved one last time, his job well done. The audience filed out, their chatter lively, their phones still buzzing. A night to remember, a clash for the ages. Online the clips spread like wildfire. Vance storms off trended. Colbert's quips shared endlessly. The divide was clear. Some praised Vance's passion, others mocked his exit. But the consensus was clear. Colbert had won. His wit, his poise, his unshakable calm. A host at the top of his game. The Late Show signed off. Another episode in the books. But this one would be remembered. A night where a senator's temper flared and a host's cool prevailed. A triumph of truth, a victory of wit. The end.